Hey guys, okay, so like I just want to see like how are you listening to music? How are you hearing my voice? I just want to know if, oh, Mochi. I just want to know if you guys can hear everything okay? Like that's not, like nothing sounds too weird. So just let me know in the chat if you can hear me well, if you can hear the music well, if anything is like too loud or too low, that type of stuff. Okay, Husky Lover 7904 says that the audio is good for me. Bit echoey, but okay. Yeah, I don't really know how to take care of that though. Let me see if I can fix that. Let's see. Okay. How about now? How about now?
Is it still echoey?
Because
The thing is that I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I did just there,
but
like I think it sounds better now, so that's great.
All right.
Holy God! Wow.
Oh,
I am echoing. Okay, hold on. Maybe I can.
This is why I don't really do a lot of live streams, is because I'm not very good at setting up live streams and stuff like that. Okay, let's see. How about this one? How about like this? Does it sound weird? How about now? Oh, okay. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay. Oh wow, 25 people. That's a number. Usually I don't get a lot of people's on live streams. Hi. I know that I'm kind of not really that much present in YouTube, but you know, it's because I kind of, you know, tend to stick to more regular social media. This is Mochi, by the way. This little gal right here, that's Mochi. She's my pigeon. You know, I just was bored, was drawing, you know, this little Izzy here, and I was like, you know, maybe, you know, I should come back and try to do a little spontaneous live stream. So the purpose of the live stream today is to kind of show how I approach shading my illustrations. And since I was pretty much done coloring Izzy here, I sort of thought it would be kind of like a fun idea to kind of show people how I do my shading. So this is what I'm gonna try and show you guys today. So first I'm gonna talk a little bit about the program that I'm using, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the way that I like to organize my folder section. So if you already know this interface, you already know what type of program this is. This is Clip Studio Paint EX. I have been using it since 2016 and I never really looked back. I love this program, and it is also the program that I use to animate. Yeah, all the shorts that you've seen on my channel are completely animated in this software. So before I get to shading, I would like to talk about a little bit about how I organize my layers. So let's just get rid of everything and let's put in, you know, the first most important thing, which is the sketch. As you can see, when I decide to draw something that is more than just a character, it has like an object involved, I like to separate the two. You know, like obviously the character, it's in its own layer, and the object, it's in its own layer as well. Because the thing is that you gotta understand that sometimes, you know, maybe the way that you drew the object is not really harmonious with your illustration. So you gotta be able to like move around, oh, excuse me, hold on. You gotta be able to move around the object, you know, to know, oh, does it look better if I put it here? Does it look better if I put it a little bit farther away? So that's just something that you should have in mind. So this is the way that I like to approach sketching. Of course, you know, when I am done, I lower the opacity. Oh, and I like to put all my layers of sketches inside a folder. So all my sketches together are on one single folder, and that helps me be able to control all of them as a unit. So I lower the opacity of the folder, and then of course, you know, I decide to do the line art on top. Now, you can see that my line art is just one single layer, but that is not exactly how I sometimes do line work. Sometimes, you know, in order to get that line just right, you got to go over a certain part of your drawing that's already drawn. So I usually make a new layer, and then I erase the part where the part of the character is like going over that line, but I still get that like flow going. And usually, for example, right here, if you pay attention to, I'm gonna make a new layer just to show it to you guys. If you pay attention to this part of her leg, right here, you know, like the leg is going over this part of her stomach, right? Right here. So it's not like I draw this line first and then I stop and I try to like keep going like this. Usually that's where you get a weird unbalance on the flow of your line. So usually what I do is that I create a new layer on top and I go over like this. And then what I do is that I go and underneath the layer where the other drawing is, and I erase the part, you know, that should be covered by the leg going in the front. So that's how I, you know, like to separate sometimes my inking. But, you know, that's just the way that I like to do it. It's not necessarily like a golden rule or something like that. So when I'm done, I like to merge all my line work because, you know, I'm not gonna need it to be separated anymore. So that's when I do colors. You know, like I like to keep the coloring of my characters separated from the objects that are populating the illustration or the object that the character is interacting with. So in this case, Izzy is interacting with this vase that she's making, right? So her colors are on a separated folder than the colors of the object, in this case the artwork that she's making. Why do I like to do that? It's because sometimes when you really want to do like a very well shaded illustration, you gotta understand that certain textures need to be shaded in a different way. I'm not gonna shade the spoons or the clay the same way that I would shade her hair or her fur, because the texture is different. You know, like you don't shade fur the same way that you're gonna shade metal, for example, or clay. It's just they have a different texture, they have a different shading. That's just you know, common sense, I guess. So I am going to go inside the folder where I have all the different parts of Izzy, and as you can see, I like to separate my layers when I color. Usually this is what I do when I know that you know, the shading is going to be elaborate. So in one layer I have her entire body, like the fur of her coat, and then on a separate layer I have her hair right here, and then I have what I consider details, which is the inner color of her ear, her eyebrows, and the color of her hooves right there. And then we get two separate layers for the eyes. Why? Because all of these elements are going to have a different type of shading. And this is where I'm gonna start getting into how I shade. So, as you can see, inside the folder of Easy Moonbow, there is her hair. Her hair is right here. I am putting view and not view right here. This is her hair. Now, if you know this character, you know that she has a two-toned hair coloring. You know, she kind of has this fade in darker blue on the ends of her hair. So this is the darker blue right here. Now, a lot of people struggle when, you know, like they want to shade stuff and when the characters have like complicated colors, because it's like, okay, so like how do I not, you know, go out of the line? How do I keep all the colors inside? And it is very easy, guys. This program, you know, will show it to you here. You can see this like little pink line that my layer has, like right here. I'm kind of hovering my mouse over it, my cursor over it. Okay, that means that the layer is clipped, okay? So you see this little square that is highlighted blue right here? This is the clipping button. Look what happens when I unclick it. All the color ends up spilling out into the background, you know? So why is it all messy? Because I make a new layer on top, I clip the layer, and that makes that all the stuff that I do on that layer will only show on the layer that's below. So that is how, you know, you can do elaborate, you know, like kind of coloring and shading and stuff like that. So anything that I do on this layer that's clipped will only show on the layer that's underneath. So that is how I managed to like put in that darker lilac-y blue tone. And the clipping is key for the way that I like to shade things. So now that I kind of explain in theory how it works, let's put it to practice. So I am going to start shading her body, and that is why I'm highlighting the layer that where the color of her fur is. So now, and this is how I do it, I want you to pay attention. I am going to create a new layer on top of my layer where her fur is, and I am going to clip to layer below. Right here, this button that I'm holding right now, click. Nothing happens. Nothing is going to happen yet because I haven't done anything yet. So listen, pay attention. I am not highlighting the layer where the color of her fur is. I am highlighting the blank layer on top that's clipped. So right now, usually what I do is that I kind of use a little bit of color theory. I take into account the color background that I'm gonna have. I take into account the color of the character. So I'm just gonna make visible the background again. So this is the color that the overall background has. It's a pretty basic background. So the background's green, Izzy's purple, and I take into account that. So I pick up the color of her fur again. This you can do by using the right-click button on your pen tablet, but you can also do it with your mouse with your right-click, like that. That picks up the color immediately to whichever you put your cursor on top. The right-click, boop, like that, and it picks up your color right there. Do you see? It's like automatically selected under here in the color wheel. Oh, you can't see that. Hold on. It is, let me just take the camera a little bit over here. Okay, so there you go. So as you can see, I did right click on top of the color of her fur, and the color of her fur shows up right here on the color wheel. So that is how, you know, I automatically get her fur color, and that is where I decide to kind of play with the type of shading that I'm going to have. So of course she's very lavender-ish, so maybe, you know, bring down the wheel to a more purple blue type of color, maybe there. And here is a little mistake that sometimes artists do. I do it from time to time, even still. When you're trying to figure out the color for your shading, sometimes people go up and down like this, and it's not really recommended to do that. It is better if you decide to go from front to back to get that shading color that you would like. So, you know, I'm kind of just like picking it over. I'm gonna try, you know, like the color that I picked right there. That looks fantastic. This is a new feature on Clip Studio. It's a color mixing window, and I love this window. So, you know, I tried it out there, and I think I'm gonna go with that color, but like maybe a little bit darker. Maybe like right. I love that. Okay, so that is the color that I'm gonna decide to go with. And it's not really such a big deal if it ends up not looking too good. I'm just gonna put my camera right here so you guys can see. It's not really a big deal if it ends up not looking too good, because then you can just play around with the layer types, and you can change the tonal correction of your shading. You can change the color at the same time, so it's not really a big deal if it doesn't look good right away. So this is the color that I'm gonna use. So I'm gonna use the color picker. That's right there. And there. Okay, so now I'm gonna get to the shading part finally. So there's two ways that I like to approach shading. One of it is that I like to go to my Lasso tool. No, sorry, not my Lasso tool. I like to go to my Lasso fill tool. In my Lasso fill tool, I like to set it on medium in the anti-isolating, and the stabilization I like to put it up to 100. You know, so I get, you know, that smooth control. So I'm going to show you two different ways to shade. So the first one, you know, you get your Lasso fill tool, you get your color, you crank up the stabilization up to 100, and then remember, I am on the empty layer on top of the one that has my fur color, and that layer is clipped, and I like to basically map out the place that I'm going to shade. So I use my Lasso tool and I let go, and boop, there it is. It's colored right there. So, you know, I of course need to be super careful. I like to kind of just like figure out where I want to block out the shading. I like to call it blocking, you know, because you're kind of just like figuring out in a very like harsh way where the shading is going to be. So one of the things that you need to have into account when you shade is that you need to have into account the overall shape of the character. You know, like for example, the shading that I just did right here, you know, like her face is sort of angled to one side like that, right? So that means that her under jaw is showing, and then you think, okay, so like her face is very round, and that means that this part is going to be the part where like the light is going to hit first, and the part that's like further back is the part that's going to hit the shade. So that's what I like to basically, you know, figure out as I go. So of course, you know, like all of us, we have holes in our cranium, and our eyes are inside the holes of our cranium. So that means that, of course, there's going to be like a dent right here. So I like to add shading on the dent at the same time. And I like just doing that, like I think it's part of my overall style, because it sort of just like gives that dreamy, tired, nostalgic, slightly sad vibe that I like to sometimes put on my illustrations. So this is how I go about it. You're just taking into account the overall shape of the character, you know, and you know, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, you know, like you don't have to exactly follow the physics of lighting. You know, like some people like to do that. Me, you know, for me, I kind of like to mix both of it. I like to, you know, kind of just like, yes, have in mind the physics of the lighting and like how it should be working with the overall shape of the character and all that. But I also like to explore what, in my opinion, would look pretty, even though it's not accurate. You know, for me, it just doesn't matter because maybe it's not accurate, but it looks good. And this is a, you know, cartoon horse. We're not doing hyper realistic illustrations of the human form or something like that. We're just playing around. So another thing that you need to have in mind when you decide to shade is what goes on top of what. So in this case, for example, let's take her chest, right? Like the chest, the torso part is behind her leg. So obviously there's going to be some pretty nice shading around the leg because the leg is going on top of this part of her body. So that is why you kind of need to think, okay, so like, let me show you how I kind of just like think of the whole overall shading in my head. This is an old trick that my illustration teacher taught me. So in order to kind of think, okay, so like where directionally I'm gonna put all my shading, all my shadows, I like to, it's like you gotta think overall where your light is being cast. And the way that I like to think about that is that there is a little lamp, you know, with a light bulb, casting light on a certain direction. So that means that the parts of the character and the parts of the drawing that are closer to the light are gonna be the ones that are gonna have light. And the parts of the character that are further away from the light are the ones that are going to be shaded. They're going to have shadows. So that is how I like to approach my shading. Of course, the way that I'm shading right now would be completely different if, for example, the little lamp would be casting light from this direction. It would be different. The way that it's shaded would be different, and it would be way different if the light were to come from the back of the character. That means that these shadows that I just drew here would have to be on the other side of the character. So that is how, you know, in my head I immediately go, okay, so like where do I want the light to be cast, and that is how I decide to put my shadows. The other thing that I have in mind when I am shading is the overall form and shape of the character and the object and the illustration overall. And the third thing that I have in mind is, does it look good? Does it not look good? Because maybe you're following the rules, but it just doesn't look good. And those are the moments where maybe the best thing is to break the rules a little. So the first thing to have in mind is, where is your light being casted? The second thing to have in mind is the overall form of the object or the character that you're shading. And the third thing to have in mind is, does it look good or does it not look good? So those are the three things that I always have in mind when I'm shading anything. When I'm shading characters, objects, lettering, anything. So now that I kind of explained that, you kind of have, you know, a little bit more of an inside knowledge as to how I like to shade. So I am still going to keep using the Lasso tool, but I told you that I was going to show you the second way that I like to shade, and that is sometimes when I know that I'm not going to be using the blur tool and blurring in the shades or the textures. You know, it's going to be cel shaded. So the second way that I like to shade is pretty basic. I pick up one of my favorite brushes. It's a pen brush called the Real G Pen. It's a predetermined brush that comes with Clip Studio Paint. You don't have to download it. And basically what I like to do is, I kind of just like to do the same thing that the Lasso Fill tool does, which is I just figure out what part I want to block out and to shade, and I just like make lines like this, right? And then I grab my paint can tool and I just fill it in. And I take care of little gaps left, and if the shape doesn't look good, that's how I kind of just like fix it, and I fill it up over there, you know, and that just like looks a little bit better, and maybe just like I can add a little bit here. It also works very well if you just need to fix like an itty bitty detail, you know, if like the part that you're shading is like smaller, because of the lasso tool, the lasso fill tool is great, but it's great if you're like covering a large area. If you're doing like little details, it's better if you just like go on top with a brush. So that is the other way I like to shade. But in this case, I like to blur out, I would like to blur out the color that I'm using on her fur right now. So I'm just gonna go back to my lasso fill tool, and I'm gonna finish blocking out all the shades on the character. Now this time, if I'm just gonna keep quiet for a little bit, concentrate on this to be able to finish the blocking out, and then I'm gonna show you the next step, okay? By the way, in this moment, if you wanna leave some questions on the chat, when I bring back my microphone audio, I will check them out and I will answer the questions if you would like. So if you have any questions, now is the time. I'm gonna mute my audio, finish blocking out all the shading, and then I'll come back, answer some questions, and I'll show you the next step. already I am done blocking out all the shade that I want to add to the character. This is like, of course, the blocking out of the shading of her fur, of her body. This can also be called cell shading. Because I'm not planning on leaving it as a cell shading, I try to call it, I'm blocking things out. So let's see if we have any questions. What inspired you to start drawing, if you don't mind me asking? Okay, so this is a question by Stephanie Caverly, if I'm pronouncing your last name right. Cartoons. Cartoons inspire me to draw. I was a little kid, I watched TV a lot, and when I was a child, you know, like first grade, second grade, Pokemon, Digimon, like those ruled the land when you were a kid in the mid 90s, early 2000s. TV shows were everything. So I really loved the concept of like made up animals, you know, made up monsters, and I kind of just like wanted to draw them, and then I wanted to make my own. So yeah, basically, you know, like the idea of, you know, like fantastical creatures invented by man that had like special powers and stuff like that. I love that concept. So yeah, that's what inspired me initially. That's why I love drawing, you know, like cartoon characters so much. I don't particularly enjoy drawing human OCs or human characters as much as I enjoy drawing creature characters like ponies and dragons and foxes and, you know, furry characters and all that type of stuff. Sterling J, hello, did I miss anything? Well, kinda, you messed up a little bit. You missed a little bit, yeah. Okay, let's see. BBs, what will happen when you blur the shadows? I really like your art. Oh, okay, so like, you gotta pay attention, you know, to be able to see what's gonna happen. Scorpio Gotcha, how did you get in MOP in the first place? Ooh, it was like way back. It was 2012. I had just graduated school. I was 17 years old. And even back then, you know, like I liked using DeviantArt a lot, and I still do. I love DeviantArt, and I love, you know, using DeviantArt for my work. But in the past, that's when I was like exploring more art from there. I don't generally use DeviantArt to look up new artists anymore. But I started to see, you know, all these badges and all these fan arts that said bronies, and I didn't understand what bronies were. At that time I thought it was brownies, you know, and I'm just like, why is everybody losing their shit over brownies? And be like, the fuck? And it's like, oh, excuse me, shouldn't have sworn. And eventually, you know, like I think I clicked on one of the images, and there was a link, and I clicked on the link, and I got sent to, you know, like, I don't know, a page that had the first two MLP episodes, and I was like, oh my god, they kind of look like the toy horses that Dee Dee from Dexter's Lab had. And that's when I realized, you know, that it was created by the wife of the guy that worked on Dexter's Lab and Powerpuff Girls, and I was like, oh, cool. And I started watching it, you know, it just matched my style so freaking much that I loved it. It was just a good match, I guess, you know, like it was a show that matched with me, because like it was cute, but at the same time it was like awesome, and the characters' designs just were so appealing to me. So that's how I got into drawing MLPs. Okay, let's see. Phoenix Flame Animations, have you ever wanted to make your own animated of picture series? I think you mean animated picture series? Yes, I have done that. I'm guessing you're a little bit new? Yeah, I've done it over and over and over again. I have several original animations on my channel. You're welcome to check them out. Okay, Husky Lover, I'm excited to learn more. No questions from me yet. I love your style. Thank you. Stephanie Caverly, can you draw yourself in the next live stream? You do if you do another live stream. Sure, maybe. I don't usually do a lot of live streams because they tend to tire me out, but maybe next live stream, yeah. José Miguel González López, acabo de llegar y lo primero que veo es la paloma de la paz. He's talking about you. Are you gonna do your dancey dance? Are you a good pigeon? Are you a good pigeon? Are you a good pigeon? Oh, you're my good pigeon. You're my very good pigeon. Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's get back to business. Okay, so, and there she goes. Alrighty, as I told you, the blocking out of the shading for her body is done. So now, usually what I would do is I would just jump straight back into doing the same thing to the hair, and then doing the same thing to the object. But because I'm guessing a lot of you guys are eager to see, you know, like how I do that, like smoothed out, rendered, shading, blurred out sort of thing that I do on the illustrations, I'm guessing that you want to see that right now. So I select my, you know, shaded layer right here, select it. Of course, I'm gonna rename it so you guys don't, you know, shaded body. There we go. Oh, my keyboard wasn't activated. Hold on. There we go. Okay, shaded body. As you can see it right there. Alrighty, so that's selected. I zoom in. Right there. You know, that's good enough. And usually, depending on the color, I go straight to the blur tool, or I try to play around first with different settings on the layer. Sometimes I like to use overlay, and that's how it ends up, you know, that's how the color ends up looking. Sometimes I like to use linear burn. Sometimes I like to use color burn. Sometimes I like to use multiply. It all depends on the color that you want. So first I am going to go with color burn. That's usually sometimes the type of shading that I like to use. And I'm going to lower the opacity to see how it looks. And that's about a color that I enjoy. And then, you know, I just try it out. Multiply, overlay, play around with the opacity and the setting. I am going to go back to linear burn, play with the opacity, and go back to color burn. And honestly, I like color burn. And I like the way it looks when it's set to 29% opacity. I just like the tone. It may change. That is the beauty of digital art, that you get to play around with the settings. So the next tool that I'm going to use is the blur tool. It's underneath the blend asset right here. It's these two drops right here on the side. So I use my blur tool, and this is how I like to have my blur settings. Of course, the brush size I change it depending on the area that I'm working on. But the intensity of my blur, I like it to be automatic, not fixed value. Because fixed value means that in the entirety of your drawing, you're only going to be able to blur it up to a certain extent. When you have it set to automatic, that means that your blur tool is following the pressure and how long you stay on a certain area in your drawing. So it's much more interactive with your pen. Brush density, of course, at a 100%, because like I want it to be a noticeable blur. So I am going to play a little bit with the size of my brush. And like I said, when you have your blur tool set for automatic, that means that it's going to respond automatically to the level of pressure and to your overall stroke of your pen. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer. I know that the drawing probably looks a little bit pixelated. It's because the original size of the drawing is this. But, you know, to be able to like have a little bit more of a detailed work, you know, kind of just like blur it up. I size it up a little bit. So mind how much you press down your brush, and that is how I blur. Now, what is something that you need to have in mind when you are blurring out the shading of your drawing? You need to know where your shadows are going to be softer and where your shadows are going to be more defined. You know, where it's going to blend in more with the flat color of your illustration, and where it's going to be, you know, much more of a contrast. And that is something that, again, the thing that you have to have in mind is where the light is being casted and the overall shape of your character. So let's have, for example, this part right here, the lower jaw. So you know that this part of her face is on top of her lower jaw. And I mean, like, if you're like watching this right now, just like touch the underside of your jaw and then go over your cheek. There is a very defined edge right here, like that, the corner, because that is your lower mandible right there. So that means that on this point of my shading, the blur is still present, but look, I'm not pressing down my brush too much, because like I need to define that this is still the lower jaw, you know? So that still keeps the overall shape of the character true to the physical form of their face, okay? So same goes with, for example, the underside of like the underneath of her lower eyelid. So there's gonna be a much harsher contrast on the part where, you know, like her eyelid bounces, and of course that casts a shadow and underneath it. So that is why I'm not doing this, you know, I'm not going like that. Don't do that. You know, like, you need to respect the overall shape of, you know, the face of your character, the shape of the body, the facial features in this case. So the places, like, it's pretty simple when you think about it. Like, it's just common sense, figuring out again, you know, like the overall shape of your form, where the light is being downcasted. And at the end of the day, stronger difference between flat color and shade means that, you know, like the shadow is harsher, more diffuminated. Diffuminated, is that a word? That is, you know, like where the shadow becomes softer. So when the corners are much more prominent, shadow is thicker. Sorry, shadow is stronger. Where the overall shape is smoother, shadow is softer. Just like that. Okay, so like that is how I like to approach my drawings. I don't like that, so I'm gonna undo and I'm gonna start over. There we go. I like that a lot more. So yeah, this is generally how I like to treat my drawings, you know? Just go, the shading and the way that you blur it goes with the shape of your character, of your object, or of whatever the heck is that you're drawing. That is, you know, how I approach my shading. So you can see there the part of her face, you know, like it's fully shaded, at least for the shadow aspect of it. That is how I like to portray it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and continue with the overall shading of her body. In this moment, I'm gonna take a little break from talking, but at the same time, I think I'm just gonna look over just a bit more questions, and then I'm gonna take a little talking break and just concentrate on finishing shading her overall body so we can get to the hair. The shading of the hair, it's like way different. So let's see. Let's see. Question. Okay, Justice. What graphic tablet do you have? I think this question has been asked a lot of times already, but I missed it. Well, actually, I think you're the first person on this live stream that has asked it, so, you know, yay for you. This tablet that I have is a Wacom tablet, a 22-inch Cintiq Wacom tablet. It's a pretty big tablet. I've only used Wacom my entire life. I really don't know any other tablet, and I'm kind of reluctant to try any other tablet. Like, I know that, you know, like, there are tablets that, you know, can be as good and can be, oh, Mochi wants attention, and can be, you know, like, as big as the 22-inch, but there's just something special about the way that the screen feels on a Wacom. You know, it's like very papery, kind of porous, you know, like, it really gives you a sense of grip when you're drawing on top of it. The thing that I noticed with other tablets that have a screen from other brands, it's that their screen feels very much like glass, and your stroke it's kind of like drawing on a banana peel, honestly. You know, it's just like very weird. So I'm not really a particularly big fan of more economic tablets. Like, in my opinion, I think like the best thing that you can do is, if you have an economic tablet, of course, you know, like, use it up to, you know, like, the most that you can use it, and save up to get a Wacom tablet. And at the same time, Wacom tablet is the industry standard for, you know, animation community, illustration community, industry. So, you know, you already get an overall practice of how, you know, your element of work is gonna feel. So, as you guys can see, I am, again, playing around with the pressure and how much I leave the brush on top of the part that I'm shading, but also I am playing a lot with the size of my brush, you know, because, like, sometimes you really want to have like that super blended in type of blur. Sometimes you don't want to. So, general rule, the longer and the harder you press, the more blended, you know, diffuminated, that's not a word, the more diffused look you're gonna get. The lighter you press and the less you go over the part, that's where, you know, like, the less is gonna be blended in with the overall color. So again, you know, always have in mind the overall shape of where you are shading. Mochi, my god, I hope you wiped your feet, because I'm not wearing my bandana. Usually I wear a bandana when she wants to sit on my head, because usually she has doo-doo feet. Please don't have doo-doo feet. I can't get her off right now, so you guys are gonna have to work with, you know, the image of, you know, my pigeon on top of my head. Any old-timers here watching Invader Zim, you got head pigeon! Go to the principal's office! Or go to the nurse, something like that. I love that episode. It's so freaking weird and so effed up, but, you know, you gotta be a little effed up to love Invader Zim, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so... When you shade, always have in mind the objects that are in front or behind. That affects the way that you choose to organize your lighting. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the full size here. Check out the way it's shaded. I think it looks great. Maybe it's a little too light. Let's play a little with the opacity again. Let's make it a little bit darker. I kind of like that. Let's play again with different facets. Let's go back to multiply. Let's go back to overlay. Let's go back to linear burn. Let's go back to color burn. I definitely like color burn more. I do like color burn more. Alrighty, so the body is shaded. There's shadows on it. But, you know, there's lighting left. But I am going to get to the portion of the hair first before I move forward. So the hair, I'm going to hide the layer where there's like the second tone to her hair, just to have a clean slate to work on. Hair is complicated. Hair is tricky to shade, especially if your style has a lot of detail in it, if you like to draw a lot of lines, if you like to define a lot of strands, if you like to draw complicated hairstyles, like me in this case. So, I think that the best way to introduce you guys to the way I shade hair is using a complicated example, which is this. As you can see, you know, like the level of detail of her hair bun is kind of like mid-level of elaborated, but it's still, you know, elaborated enough. So why don't we just get to it? So again, like I said, I'm just gonna hide the layer where there's the different tone in her hair. I'm just gonna work with the clean slate. And of course, again, new layer on top of my second clip layer. I'm gonna clip it. Clip right there. I'm going to get a little closer, and again, I pick the color, I go over to my color wheel, and I start playing around with my color wheel in the way that I wanna do the shading. I'm gonna mix my colors because I like doing that. You know, I think I'm just gonna go with the darker version this time. Yeah, because like again, you know, like if you don't end up liking the color, you can change it with tonal correction. You can, you know, select it and change the color overall. You can change the type of layer. You know, there's like many ways to, you know, play with the coloring afterwards. So I'm just going to do it like that. So new layer, clip, and let's do this. Did I accidentally undo certain aspects? No, I did. Okay, great. Alrighty, let's get to work. Same way as before. I showed you the two different ways that I like to shade. One, of course, is the lasso tool. The lasso tool technique, like I told you, you know, it's convenient if you have a large area to shade. When you have a part of your drawing that's like very detailed like this, depending on how detailed you want to shade, it is just better if you go in with the brush and you start blocking out the part that you want to shade, or just start coloring it. So right now what I'm going to do is just like, I'm just going to block out using a brush. It can be any brush. I'm just using my favorite brush, and then I go over with my paint tool can, and I just like fill in the parts of my hair. And the easy thing about shading hair is that you just overall pay attention to the shape of your the shape of the lines, the way that the lines twist and turn. You just go along with the hairstyle. In this case, it's a bun, so you know, I'm just going like that. So yes, this process takes a lot longer than other ways of shading things, but again, you know, like this is the way that I do it. Maybe there's an easier way to do it and I just don't know about it. This is just the way that I like to approach things. And you know, sometimes, yes, you know, there may be an easier thing to get the results that you're looking for, but I think, you know, sometimes it's just better to do the hard version of certain drawing techniques, because one, you know, it's the thing that you're comfortable with, you know? So like, even if it's more complicated or harder, or you know, like it takes longer time to finish, I just think that if that's how you learned, if that's how they taught it to you, if that's how you taught yourself to do, then, you know, if it gives you peace and it, you know, it's the technique that gives you a larger sense of control, then that is what you should do, you know, even if there's an easier way. So this is the way that I like to do it. And plus, you know, it allows me to really, you know, like understand how I'm shading, you know, just like I can go back, I can look, I can over analyze, I can make corrections if I have to. So again, you know, like when it comes to shading the hair, the important thing that you need to have in mind, again, is the overall shape of the drawing, you know, in this case, the hair. So you need to have into account how the hair is falling, the texture of the hair, you know, like for example, Izzy has wavy hair. So that means there are going to be parts of her hair that are going to be more shaded than others. And of course the shading has to go with the overall shape, not only of her hair texture, but of the hairstyle that you're picking. So Izzy really has a lot of hair, and she has very wavy, kind of like raggedy type of hair. So, you know, like I like it a lot because like it honestly is kind of like a more pristine version of my type of hair. I have very messy, wavy, shaggy looking hair, and I have it very long as well. So I really liked just how they designed Izzy's hair in the movie. If you go to Netflix right now and you see the special that came out, I think yesterday, you can see that the CG model that they're using for the TV quality animation, that her hair is like way shorter, way shorter. And I think it has to do with like rendering, you know, like rendering time and collision type of stuff with the other CG models and stuff like that. You just like it means the character has a lot of hair. So like of course, you know, that means that it takes longer to render. The particles may not work right. I don't know. The point is they got rid of a lot of her hair length. She has way shorter hair now, and I don't know. I kind of just feel bad about it because her design is just so good. You know, it's just so freaking good. It was really well done, and I just think, I mean, like I think if you know, like you would make me have to say something negative about her design being that good and like that cool, is that when you put her next to the other ponies, they kind of don't match. You know, like she has this very powerful, very beautiful, really, you know, like she really reads as magical unicorn from the woods, and the others kind of end up looking a little bit lackluster. So I guess, you know, maybe part of the decision was to kind of tone down her design a bit, you know, just not to make her too magical looking, because the other characters ended up looking a little bit too normal. I mean, look, I love Pip and Sip. My favorite, of course, is Sip. But I mean, when you put the two of them next to Izzy, and you go with the understanding that Pip and Zip are supposed to be princesses, who looks more like a princess if you put the three of them together? You know, like in my opinion, Izzy looks way more like a you know, princess horse, to be honest. And I don't know, maybe that's part of the, you know, like the design or their overall story. No freaking idea. So I am about to be done with the shading, so that's awesome. Oh no, I still have to work on her tail. Justice, you tell and show everything so clearly. I would only dream of such a drawing teacher, but I don't even know English. If you don't know English, how are you writing that? You know? Okay. By the way, guys, I am a native Spanish speaker. I am from Paraguay, so if there's anybody in the chat that needs to ask a question in Spanish, ask away. I can answer questions in Spanish with no issue. Yo lo hablo español, primero que nada. Solamente que trato de hablar mayoritariamente en inglés porque es lo que la mayoría pues usa en internet y es lo que uso siempre. Pero sí, hablo español. Así que si alguien tiene una pregunta en español y la quiere pasar en el chat, pásenla, la puedo contestar sin problema y hago la traducción en inglés cuando termine de contestar. Alrighty, so now we're gonna go over to her tail. I'm gonna take a small break on talking, just that, a little small break, and then I will put the mic on again and answer any questions. So if you guys have any questions right now, now's the time to type them on the chat, and I will get back to you when I'm done shading the tail. Alrighty, I think that looks good enough. Just like looking back, going back to it, I think it looks pretty good. Again, when you shade, you have to have in mind the way that, like the object, the character, the element is moving. So of course the shading and the shape of the way that I block it goes with the hairstyle, goes with the waviness, goes with the flow of the hair. Okay, so I am going to stretch always very important, guys, when you are, you know, like drawing for over an hour, over 30 minutes, you know, just like drop down your pencil, twist your wrist a little bit, you know, just like it's very, you know, it's very recommended, you know, like for you to do that. So like, of course, you rotate it, and then what you do is just like you extend your hand and you press your wrist upwards like this, bring it to your face, then turn your arm and press it inwards, not too hard, just like keep it like that, and then just like shake, stretch your back, go to one side, go to the other side, chest out, you know, if everything needs to pop, everything needs to pop. Of course, in another scenario, I would kind of just like stand up, kind of just like twist my lower back a little bit, try to bend for a little bit, but you know, like I don't think, you know, it's necessary right now to do that. Alrighty, so let's take a little bit of a break. Always remember to save every once in a while. Clip Studio does have an automatic save system that you can configure to, you know, how, you know, from what time to time you want it to automatically save, but, you know, it's always just, you know, to keep it as a voluntary practice. You just like shave from time to time. So let's see if we have some questions. Okay, let's see. Torako, I mean, Sif doesn't really feel comfortable as a princess, so it makes sense she doesn't look like one. Pip looks a little bit more princessy, though. I don't know if Pip looks princessy. I think Pip definitely looks very music pop star singer, you know, like very much like. The one thing of her design that kind of bothers me is like the fluffiness of her wings, you know, just like I tend to associate that with baby feathers too much, and you know, like I sort of thought that, you know, like maybe we were going to be introduced to a character that had an amazing talent, you know, which is singing, but you know, because she never lost her down feathers, she wasn't able to fly. You know, that would have been a great opportunity to showcase, you know, like a certain, you know, level of you know, disability, and it would have been a great way to honor Scootaloo, you know, which was also a Pegasus that had wings but just couldn't fly because her wings were underdeveloped. And this is just another case of, you know, show a character that had underdeveloped wings, but at the same time, you know, like you could, you know, say, well, yeah, you can't fly, but your wings are beautiful and they're super soft, and you know, what does it matter that you can't fly, because like when you sing, you make everybody else fly, you know. So that would have been such a, like, I feel like they lost an opportunity into teaching a very important thing right there. But you know, I kind of understand, you know, like that she's supposed to be the soft, more traditionally girly character type, so you know, fluffiness, softness, pinkish tones kind of just go with that. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Justice, I seem to gradually understand English when I practice and listen to English speech. Double benefit. Yes, that is actually a thing. That is how I learned. I listened and I practiced English. Okay, Angel 101. Someone never heard of Google Translate. Well, some of us don't need it, and some of them don't want to use it. Stephanie Caverly. Why do you not do live streams often, like once a week? Because they're very taxing. They're just taxing, you know, just like, I like to do things, you know, in private, you know, I like to take my time on certain things. Sometimes I don't feel like I want to talk at all, you know, it just comes with being autistic, you know, like you kind of like being by yourself, you know, sometimes you need to take your time, and sometimes you you know, want to have a messy desk, and you want to have the opportunity to be able to, I don't know, pass gas and burp and stuff like that, right? You know, just like the comfort of, you know, your alone work time. I understand that it would be more beneficial if I did live streams more often, but at the same time, I sort of feel that, you know, the type of stuff that I would do live streams about, it's kind of boring, you know, like I think people wouldn't be too interested in the stuff that I have to talk about. Okay, let's see. Okay, 'cause 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 ' Okay, so that's it with questions. Okay, fantastic. Let's move on. Alrighty, time to shade hair. And there are many ways to shade hair. There are many ways to render hair, but I'm gonna try and keep it simple this time. Alright? So same rule. We go to the shaded layer. We play around with the settings. I'm gonna use color burn again. That's how it looks in color burn. That's how it looks in linear burn, and that's how it looks. Ooh, I love how it looks on overlay. Let's bring back the two-tone part, okay? And now we play with the opacity level. I love that. You know, this is why it's important to try different types of layers. You know, just like look how it looks with overlay. But let's just be safe. Let's go back to how it looks on color burn. Let's go back to how it looks on linear burn. Let's go back to how it looks on multiply. And let's go back to how it looks on overlay. Definitely prefer overlay. I don't know why. It's just, I like how it looks. Okay, so I like the level of opacity that I put. You know, we're doing at 70%. Why do we play with the level of opacity even with the hair shade? Because this is a character that has 2 tones of color on her hair. So there needs to be a certain level of transparency, because you don't want to have that harsh transition between shaded part in the second color. So again, get my blur tool. I can get a little bit closer if I want, even though that's too close. There we go. And again, we just start working on how we want the overall shade to be. Again, bigger the surface where the shadow is located, that means that the color is going to be smoother. If the angle is tighter, then that means that the shadow is going to be tighter. It's not going to be as blurred into the color. So always keep in mind that. But of course, you know, like that's not a golden rule. You know, like you're the one that always has to kind of make the call, because like a lot of things depends on the overall style that you want to convey. You know, like this is the way that I work it, because like, this is my style, but like, you know, like it depends on, you know, how you want to approach your drawings, always. Okay, so shading hair is just same principles as shading the body, the fur, but I am going to show you, when I'm done doing this, I'm going to show you a little bit of extra stuff that sometimes I like to do. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take a little bit of a vocal break. If any of you guys have any more questions, now's the opportunity. I'm just gonna get rid of the mic for a little bit, concentrate on finishing this, and this is the time for more questions. By the way, I do enjoy a good tip. So if you want to tip me, my coffee page is down in the description, and I just now realized the way that came out, and it might have been inappropriate. I am so sorry for that. But anyway, my coffee link, my coffee page is down in the description, so if you guys like my work and would like to support me, link down below. Oh my god, I can't believe I just did that. Okay. I'm gonna kill my mic for a bit and be embarrassed in silence, and when I'm done shading, I'll be right back. so I finished blurring out all the shade in the hair. Let's check out some questions if we have any. Let's see. When will you be done? I want to see her. She already looks so pretty. Oh, she's definitely going to be posted on my social media when she's done. Alrighty, so let's just get back to the next part of it. So, I am going to still be sticking to the hair because I'm going to show you, you know, like sometimes what I like to do when I'm shading hair. So, in the beginning, I told you guys that you need to have in mind the texture of the certain things that you're shading. Of course, fur and hair have a different texture, and therefore sometimes maybe an extra brush in order to play a little bit more with the detail is needed. So I am going to show you sometimes what I like to do. So, for example, I like a brush that I have available on, when you have Clip Studio Paint EX, you have access to the library where you can download and see many different types of brushes that other artists make, that Clip Studio Paint makes, and you can either pay for them or they're free. I, of course, like to see what's available, you know, as free. So I found this brush that's called the Easy Hair Blender. And I want you guys to pay attention what this brush does. Okay, so let's just see. Brush size, stabilized. Okay, yeah, okay, so this looks good. I mean, I know it doesn't really look, you can't really see what it's doing, but like I'm gonna zoom in as best as I can. Just pay attention to what the brush does. You see what it's doing? It's blending in the colors in a strandy sort of way. So it's emulating hair strands. See what it's doing? You know, it's kind of too close up, but like I think it's still good enough for you to see. So this brush is freaking amazing to sort of just like have that extra level of texture. Okay, so I'm going to keep playing a little bit, you know, with the edges of my shadows to add that extra texture to it. And I know that, you know, like, you can't really see it that much as I'm working on it, but just start paying attention to the overall look of the hair. You're gonna start seeing what the brush is exactly doing, and you're gonna go, oh! And a little detail, a little extra detail makes a whole lot of difference sometimes, especially when you zoom out and you check what you're drawing, what your drawing is doing. So, of course, depending on the drawing, I like to do this. Sometimes I just don't think it's necessary. Sometimes I do. In this case, I want to show you guys, you know, like a lot of stuff that I usually do. So that is why I brought it out. And this brush is very new. I'm still sort of learning how to use it. So, you know, I might be able to be much more skilled at it in the near future. Right now, I'm just learning how to get a general feel of it. You know, like sometimes I get better results, sometimes I don't. It all depends on how much you're willing to experiment with it. That's it. You're not automatically good at using a certain tool. You know, start using it, and you kind of just like start to sense how you want to use this tool, you know, like how you want to personalize it, how you want to set it up when it comes to the aspects of it. Like what I'm trying to say is that you're not going to get good at using a certain tool, or you're not going to discover your favorite brushes if you don't try brushes. That's my point. Alrighty, so this looks good enough. Okay, that looks fantastic. So like if I pull back, that's when you start seeing just the difference of this brush, and like how much of a difference it creates. Now you can see that the hair has a more well worked texture in it, so it's kind of like it looks really good. All right, so now I'm just gonna keep on the hair because like the hair is kind of, it's gonna have a lot more work to be done, for it to be finished. So I am going to make another layer, on top of it, clip it, clip, and now I'm gonna work on the lighting in the hair. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more, and just right off the bat, Izzy Moonbow has blue hair, so the light is gonna look very much, a very bright baby blue neon color. So that's what I'm going to be using. Just going to set up the color that I want right there. And again, same as before, just having into account where the light is being casted, and on the smaller parts I'm just going to work it in with my brush. If the part that I'm working in the light is wider, then I'm just going to be using the lasso tool. But in this case, I mostly am going to cover the surface just using my brush. For example, this area of her hair strand is like way larger, so I can just go in with the lasso tool and just get that big portion there done right there. But like there's not a lot of parts where it's like big enough to be able to do that. Sometimes you want to just be able to have that precision of the brush, like working the lasso tool in small itty bitty bits here with all these like lines in between. It's kind of tricky, so I'm not saying don't do it, but I am saying kind of be careful how you decide to shape your lighting. Right. Okay. Okay. Now, the lighting that hits the hair, it's different from the shine that the hair has, okay? So obviously, light creates the shine, but there are parts where your hair is going to want to be shiny, but the light is not hitting it. So, also have in mind that. Okay, cleaning up there. It's much easier to just like attack the smaller parts with the brush. I don't have to go back in with the eraser and make corrections if I just use the brush. Alrighty, that looks good. I can't put a lot of shine everywhere because like it depends, like where is your light hitting. Always have that in mind. Always, always, always. My dog is crying, but don't pay attention to that. He's just whiny because he wants attention and I'm not giving it to him because I'm live streaming. Lolo, no. Behave. Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, that looks good. That looks good. I like it. I like it. Maybe just like add a little bit. Nah, yeah, it looks good. It looks good. Okay, let's do lighting here. Now the area to cover on the tail, there's like larger areas, so I can just like go in with the lasso tool and play with the lasso tool. Right there. Fix the shape with the eraser. Right there. Fix the shape with the brush. Right there. Alrighty. Okay. Alright. There we go. Again, don't overdo it too much with the lighting. If you overdo it too much with the lighting, it ends up looking like a Lisa Frank illustration, and I mean, like, I mean, like, I don't mean to diss on Lisa Frank style, but, like, it's just not the type of style that I want to go for. Okay. Okay. Let me just, like, add a little bit of lighty light right here. Maybe it'll look good. Alrighty! Yeah, that looks good. I like it. Okay, so next thing we do, again, play with the layers. Now, lighting is different from shading, so, like, of course I'm going to be using shades that, you know, make the color lighter or make the color glow instead of making it darker. So let's try add, lower the opacity. Let's try add glow. That looks beautiful. Let's try screen. Much more subtle. Let's try color dodge. Let's try glow dodge. Ooh, glow dodge looks fantastic because glow dodge blends in with the different tone of the hair. So like glow dodge is the way to go right here. So like lowering the opacity right there. And again, same thing. I go and I use my blur tool and I blur out the parts. Now, glow dodge, add, glow add, those types of layers, they're easier, they're much harder to blur, you know, because like they're very concentrated. So it all depends on the level of style that you want to hit. I love it, you know, but like yeah, they're harder to blend in. They're very saturated, but I want that. So like, you know, and I like the way that it blurs out. But like it again, you know, it all depends on your overall style. This is mine. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do exactly what I did before. I'm gonna take a little voice rest and I will answer questions when I come back. And so this is the time to leave questions. Alrighty, as you can see, the shading in the hair is done. You know, I went back, checked on the layer settings, saw if it would look better in a different setting. It did not look better. So again, let's see if we have any questions. I love your art. Do you ever try to draw animals like realistic? Not really. Not really. Realistic is just not my style. Do you ever watch old videos? Yes, all the time. Alrighty, let's go to the next portion of our lighting, and that is lighting the body. And we follow the same rules that we did with the shading. We work where the light is being casted and the overall shape of the character or the object. So new layer on top of the body, on top of the shaded color. Let's clip it. Take the overall color of the body. Now, okay, so Izzy is very lavender-ish. So naturally, like for me, my mind goes to maybe using a pink color to light her. So I'm just gonna use kind of like a faded pink. That's what I'm gonna do. A nice pink color. I think it's gonna look nice. And I'm gonna use my lasso tool to shape the parts where the light hits her. I think the pink needs to be lighter. Oh, perfect, okay. Alrighty, so let's pay attention on this part, because like you saw me kind of just like fiddle with the layer settings. Is because like I like this pink color, but I'm just not 100% feeling it. So I tried different layers. I tried playing with the level of opacity. It just the color was just not closing for me. So what do? We go to harder ways of changing the color. So I like to go to Edit, Tonal Correction, and Hue, Saturation, and Luminosity. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see the window that shows up, because it's kind of like a pop-up window, and for some reason my live stream software does not show the pop-up, and I see it on the live stream, it's just not showing. But anyway, you know, like when you go to Edit and you go to Tonal Correction and you hit Hue, Saturation, and Luminosity, you're able to play with the color of the layer itself. And that way, you know, like you can see, you know, how the color would start changing depending on, you know, like how you start playing with the graduation of the colors. So that is what I'm doing right now. So this way, you don't have to, you know, like go back and redo your coloring. You don't have to do that. You can just, you know, like go and fix it from within. I love that. I'm gonna hit OK, and the shading still looks a little off on my part, so I'm just gonna go back again, Edit, Hue, Saturation, and Luminosity. I'm gonna change the colors on the shading. Sometimes you just need to make it a little bit more luminous. Sometimes you need to saturate it a little more, or desaturate it a little bit more. Sometimes you need to play with the hue. Okay, yeah, I think that looks a lot better. It looks a lot more in harmony with the colors. Let's hit OK, and I can play with the dark. Okay, yeah, that looks perfect. I have no say in it. Let's go, maybe just to be on the safe side, let's go to our shading of our hair, Edit, Tonal Correction, Hue, Saturation, Luminosity. Do the same thing. Play around with the levels. See what looks good. See what it doesn't look good. Yeah, that looks way better. And that way you get to kind of like play with the tones without having to erase or, you know, try out more rustic methods of like changing colors and stuff like that. Okay, so let's see. Okay, it's a pigeon. Okay, alrighty. Okay, so we're only gonna be focusing on Izzy's shading because it's already 9:15 and I have been streaming for a very long time. So, what are the things that we still need to shade? We still need to shade and render her hoofs. We still need to shade and render her eyes. And we still need to shade and render her horn. So, let's get to it. Again, I'm not going to repeat myself too much, but I'm just going to try and keep quiet and just like go into autopilot here to finish shading all the different aspects of her again. But just remember, the 3 things to have in mind when you are shading, rendering an illustration is 1, you need to know where the light is being cast. 2, you need to have into account the shape of the object or the character that you are shading, that you're rendering. And 3, you just need to go with what looks good, you know, and kind of just like globalize all that and make your call based on those pointers. That is my opinion. That the other thing that you need to have into account when you shade, when you render things, is that you need to have into account the texture of the character or the object that you're shading. Of course, the way that we shaded her hair, the way that we shaded her fur, is not going to be the same way that we're going to shade her hooves. It's not going to be the same way that we're going to shade her eyes, and it's not going to be the same way that we're going to shade her horn. Why? Because hair is follicles, strands. Fur is follicles, strands. Again, like shorter, it's like it's fuzzy. Hoofs are a hard surface texture part of her. So, let's get to it. So here's my layer with the hoofs. New layer on top. We clip it and we get to it. Okay, so this is how I like to shade my hoofs. Of course, again, all depends on everyone's style. I'm just gonna get to it. Now, when certain aspects of what you're shading or lighting are like very small and it's like very detailed, it's better if you just go to filter and do Gaussian blur and work out the level of strength of the Gaussian blur from there. Because like sometimes, like when it's like a very, very small space, it's better if you just like go with the effect, the overall effect, because sometimes, like the space is like a little bit too small. Now I'm going to add a small highlight, and I'm going to use a lighter pink to do that like extra highlight on the hooves to make them shiny. It's like shiny and smooth and chromy, so like, like an extra layer of like shininess to it adds to the texture, definitely adds to the texture. Alrighty. And not to kind of just like spoiler a little bit, but like the thing is that there's going to be kind of dirt mud coating that top part of her coloring, so like it doesn't really matter that much, just how well I shade her hooves, but just to let you know. Yeah, I'm just still doing it to kind of just like show you guys. Okay, let's go with her eyes. So I usually like to divide my eyes between the white part and the color part. And I'm going to put both of them in a folder. And I am going to first work on the color part. So new layer on top, clip it, and let's zoom in to work on the eye color. Okay. So the part of the eye that's closer to the light source is going to be brighter, and the part of the eye that is further away from the light source is going to be darker. Just like that. I'm not going to put too much pizzazz in the eye color because, like, again, it's a very small area. Now, if her eyes would be, you know, like occupying a much bigger space in the illustration, then sure. But right now, just gonna keep the details to a minimum. Try to make him as pretty as I can. I'm gonna go all the way on the top, and I'm gonna go on top of the black line work and add the white glow part. There we go. That looks great. Okay, so now that I rendered the colored part, I am going to close off my folder where all the layers of my eye are. I'm gonna make a new layer on top of the folder, clip it, boop, and that means that all I do on top of that on that layer are gonna show on the overall folder. Okay, so I'm just gonna shade her eyes. Usually I'm gonna go for a purple. Go over there like this. And then I'm going to hit multiply and lower the opacity right there and blur it a little bit. And then I like to go with my eraser and kind of add, you know, a little bit more of a liquidy sort of shade right there. That looks great. Alrighty. Another thing that I like to do, I like to go on top of the black line art again and add a little bit of a white line right there, cutting the line work of the eye with the eyelid. That gives it, you know, like kind of like a shine, you know, like a glittery shine, like her eye is coated, it's glowing, you know, just like it adds that, you know, like extra to the illustration. Alrighty. All the aspects of her are shaded, so let's talk about final touches. Okay, so something that a lot of artists like to do is give some sort of like final touches to the light, to the overall shade of it all. So this is why, you know, it's very important to keep everything organized. So, you know, like all of her is enclosed in this folder right here. All the work that we have been doing is inside the character folder right here. You see all this mess that we made? It's all neatly packed inside this character folder. So for final touches, for final, you know, like little shiny glittery thingies, I'm gonna make a new layer on top, clip it, and everything that I do on this layer is gonna show overall on the entirety of everything that we did. So let's get to it. So to some people, you know, like to add a little bit of extra details, you know, to the lighting. So immediately, you know, I'm just gonna pick up the color of my overall light and I'm gonna sneak a little bit into the part that I'm shading. You know, like this is, I don't know how to properly describe it, but it's kind of like it gives it a little extra body. You know, it gives it a little extra form to be able to sneak in a little bit, you know. You can do the same, you know, with the flat colored texture. It just helps to, you know, kind of just like add a little bit more of a 3D, you know, like that this is like an object that has depth and it has depth, and you know, that's the overall aspect of it. So, you know, that is what I like to do. You know, I just like to go over my overall drawing like this, and I like to pick the color of the place that I'm hovering over, and just getting on top of the drawing, exactly like I'm doing right now. And now that we're zoomed in, you probably don't sense much of a difference, but you're gonna see just how much of a difference it makes when I zoom out. You're gonna notice it in a minute. All right, and some people like to do it a second time. Some people like to, go directly, like saturated white, and go over, like the part that has more light on the character. And again, like that helps, give that sensation of like an extra shiny coat, and just like it adds to the overall render of the illustration. I don't exactly have the correct vocabulary to explain just the technical aspect of it, but like I can't deny the fact that like sometimes for certain drawings, if you have the time, it just makes it look really good. And of course, again, it's not really noticeable right now because like we're like super zoomed in, but once I zoom out, you're gonna see the difference. Alrighty, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Look how much of a difference it makes. It just brings more form. It doesn't feel like it's so flat anymore. It really just feels like a character that has weight and that has depth and that has texture. And I just like that. So same thing, I could do the same thing with the hair. But the thing is that the hair, it's already very nicely rendered. Here is something that I like to do with hair. And it's the same principle, but it's a little bit different. I like to go all the way on top of the line art, and I like to make a new layer. And what I like to do is that I like to create loose strands that don't have black liner. I like to create strands that are just the color. So I go over the place that I want to take the color from. So I'm going to take the color from the line art, and I go like this. Or maybe from here, I like to go like this. Of course, you gotta be careful where you stop your line work, because like it needs to be according to the color that you're using. But this is what I'd like to do to give that extra texture to her hair. Wait, gotta pick the color. Again, it just adds, it gives, a little extra personality to your drawing. It gives that, the final touches sometimes just do so much, and they're so easy to make. It's just that you gotta get to that point for them to be able to work. I'm sorry if you guys hear that, but Mochi is pecking on my headphones. Mochi, stop that. Go. Come on. There we go. Sorry about that. Maybe just drop more hair over her face. Just like really just bring in that beauty of her messy, wild, forest untamed mane. Now, don't overdo it too much with the details. Sometimes it can be a little bit too much. You gotta know when to stop, because like sometimes you're like oversaturating your illustration. So kind of just like, every once in a while, stop, look back, see how nice it looks. It looks nice enough, and go. Let's go to the tail portion. So again, I pick the color, and that's where I bring the strand from. It all depends on the part that you decide to pick the color, if it looks good enough. Sometimes a slight change of tone doesn't matter. Sometimes it does. You know, again, you know, it all depends on the artist's call. It all depends on your overall call. And, you know, if it doesn't look good, that's the beauty of digital drawing, that you can just undo and start over. Alrighty, let's pull back, let's look. Oh, this looks absolutely beautiful, fantastic. Okay, so I just noticed that there was a little piece of the shading layer of her fur that I did not blur out, so I'm just gonna go ahead and fix that real quick. There we go. Okay, so there she is. You know, like there she is, Izzy Moonbow, fully shaded, fully rendered. Of course, you know, like I haven't really added the dust and the dirt and the magic effect of her horn. I haven't yet shaded the object, which is the artwork that she's making. But of course, you know, that is like another maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of time to be able to do it with patience and with love. But again, you know, I just wanted you guys to see a little bit of how I decide to shade. And since most of my drawings are characters, I feel like this is a good enough place to stop, you know, a good enough place to kind of just like go, oh, okay, so you know, like this is where we're gonna stop. So yeah, I really hope that you learned a little bit of new things today. Of course, you know, maybe an extra add of shade to her body would be beneficial. Maybe like playing a little bit with the tones. You know, your drawing is never going to be perfect, but there's a point where you gotta say, okay, this looks good enough, you know, I need to move on, sort of deal. But again, it all has to do with your call, you know, the artist's call. Okay, so for the last time, this is the last time to type in any sort of questions that you guys want to ask me. I'm just gonna go back to the chat and check. Let's see. What app are you using to draw this? Okay. Oh, okay. Somebody answered it. Thank you, Free Soren. Yes, it is Clip Studio Paint EX. Let's see. Liz with a smile. Clip Studio is also a paid program, but it has a non-subscription. Yes, you are absolutely right, Liz with a smile. So here's how it works with Clip Studio Paint EX, or the other types of Clip Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint is a one-time purchase for desktops or laptops. It is a monthly or yearly subscription on Android phones, Mac computers. No, not Mac computers. It is a monthly or yearly subscription on Androids. That means phones and tablets, and on iPhones, and on iPads. That is what I know. I may be wrong, but that is, you know, like I check it all the time. So yeah, my Clip Studio, I paid for it in 2016, and it is mine forever. I get to update it, I get to play with it, I get to change it, I get to have it, I think, in different computers. Like if I change this computer and if I go to another computer, I'm able to download it, get my purchase code, and have my Clip Studio Paint software right here. It's not like I change a computer and I have to buy it again. Let's see, what else? Free Soren, this pony looks like she's been up all night. You are absolutely right, she has been up all night. You have an eye for detail. Okay, let's see. You've done a great job. Isabela Mata, puedes decir Isabela Madrigal. Can I draw Isabella Madrigal? Maybe I could, but you know, again, people are not exactly my strong suit. I don't exactly draw a lot of human characters. My stuff is anthropomorphic animals, furry characters, ponies, dragons, foxes, cats, just, you know, stuff like that. I don't usually draw humans. I could, it's just not what I vibe with, if you catch my drift. But of course, again, there is still a lot of stuff that I could do with this drawing. So, you know, it's kind of like a thing that I have to stop now because, like, it's 9:37. I still need to shower. I still need to have dinner. I need to put this guy, this gal right here, I need to put her to bed, and she does not want to go to bed. You know, she's pecking me right now because she knows that I'm gonna soon be grabbing her and putting her on her cage. She does not want that. But yeah, again, I just wanted you guys to have a sense of you know, knowledge. You know how I like to approach you know, shading a character, lighting a character. Alrighty, so that's it. Thank you so much to the 24 people that showed up, that stayed, that asked questions, that, you know, like communicated on the chat. Actually, this is one of the most populated streams that I've had, to be honest. Usually I don't get a lot of you know, people in the stream. That's why I don't really stream that much, because like there's not enough engagement to keep me busy. Usually I like to put videos in the background while I work. But yeah, again, thank you so much. And I'm gonna be ending the stream very soon. I'm gonna be leaving this stream on my channel. Let's hope it doesn't get copyrighted. I did use copyright-free music, so I don't know how it can get copyrighted. But again, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much, everybody that joined the stream. This turned out to be more fun than I expected. So just muchísimas gracias. Thank you, and I'll see you guys very soon. And to the 21 people still present in the live stream, you get to be spoiled in a good way. The next animation that is coming to my channel is going to be the next Spiderfly animation. So there you go. I'm gonna be working on it very soon. Of course, animation always takes time, but just letting you guys know that the Spider and the Butterfly saga is getting an add-on very soon, and their overall story and their daughter's overall story, it is not nearly done. Alrighty guys, take care, have a great weekend, and I will catch you on my social media. All social media below in the description. Bye bye!